My dear brothers and sisters, there is a question many people carry silently in their hearts, a question they ask late at night, when the world has gone quiet and the heart speaks loudest. Why does love come so easily to others, yet for me it feels distant? Why do I try and try again, yet nothing seems to stay? And sometimes that question turns into self-doubt. It turns into pain. It turns into believing that perhaps something is wrong with you. But let me tell you this clearly and let it settle in your heart. Not everyone who struggles to find love is broken. Some are protected, some are chosen. You see, there are souls in this world that are not meant for shallow connections. Souls that cannot survive on half love, temporary affection, or words without sincerity. Their hearts are too deep, their emotions too real. And when such a heart is placed into the wrong hands, it shatters more than others. So sometimes love is delayed, not because you are unworthy, but because you are valuable. Allah does not rush what is precious. He does not hand diamonds to those who do not know their worth. And so He allows time, He allows solitude, He allows moments where you think you are alone. But in reality, you are being shaped, strengthened, and prepared. What shocks people is this: the absence of love is not always rejection. Sometimes it is redirection, sometimes it is mercy, and sometimes it is a sign that your heart is being reserved for something or someone that will not destroy it. So if you are one of those who love deeply, who feel intensely, who walk away when things feel wrong, who refuse to settle just to fill a void, do not despair. Your journey is different. And different does not mean wrong. Some hearts are protected, not neglected. This truth is difficult to accept in a world that measures worth by attention, relationships, and visible affection. When love does not arrive easily, the heart begins to question itself. It wonders whether it is lacking, whether it is unseen, whether it is somehow unlovable. But the reality is far more profound. Protection often looks like absence. Mercy often disguises itself as delay. And care from the Most Wise is not always wrapped in what we desire, but in what preserves us. There are hearts that feel deeply, attach sincerely, and love with purity. Such hearts are not meant to be passed from one temporary connection to another, collecting wounds along the way. If they were exposed too early, too often, or to the wrong people, the damage would not be small. It would reshape their trust, harden their softness, and silence their sincerity. So love is withheld not as a denial, but as a shield. What appears to be loneliness is sometimes the quiet space where the heart remains intact. Many people look at those who move from relationship to relationship and assume ease means success. But ease is not always blessing. Some connections arrive quickly because they carry no weight, no depth, no responsibility. They leave just as easily as they come. A protected heart is spared from this cycle. It is not allowed to bond where there is no future, to invest where there is no sincerity, or to attach where there is no emotional safety. And while the mind may protest, the soul understands. Protection also comes in the form of heightened awareness. Certain individuals cannot ignore red flags. They feel discomfort where others feel excitement. They sense inconsistency before promises are broken. This is not overthinking, this is discernment. And discernment often leads to walking away, even when the heart desires to stay. It leads to solitude, not because companionship is unwanted, but because peace is valued more than company that drains the soul. There is also protection from becoming someone you were never meant to be. When love is delayed, it forces self-discovery. It pushes you inward. You begin to understand your values, your boundaries, your emotional language. You learn patience. You learn restraint. You learn that fulfillment does not begin or end with another person. And in that process, you become whole on your own. A heart that knows itself cannot be easily manipulated, rushed, or broken. That is protection. Often, people blame themselves for the absence of love. They try to change their personality, soften their standards, lower their expectations, or become more acceptable. But a protected heart refuses to compromise its essence just to belong. It would rather wait than betray itself. And this waiting is not passive, it is active growth. It is becoming emotionally stable, spiritually anchored, and mentally resilient. Protection also saves you from grief you cannot yet handle. There are losses that, had they occurred earlier, would have crushed you, so they are postponed. There are attachments that would have consumed you, distracted you from your purpose, or pulled you away from your path, so they are blocked. Not every closed door is a punishment. Some are barriers placed lovingly in front of you so you do not walk into harm. When you begin to see absence as protection, the narrative changes. You stop begging for what has not arrived. You stop chasing what keeps slipping away. You stop comparing your journey to others. Instead, you trust that what is meant for you will not require you to lose yourself, compromise your peace, or damage your heart. And when love finally arrives, it will meet a heart that is healed. Not desperate, complete, not broken, ready, not rushed. So if love has been difficult to find, do not conclude that you are forgotten. Sometimes you are simply being guarded. Guarded from pain you did not deserve. Guarded from attachments that would have cost you too much. Guarded until the time the person and the purpose align. And that kind of protection, though silent and misunderstood, is one of the greatest forms of care a soul can receive. Delay in love is often misunderstood as rejection, as though the heart has been denied something it desperately needs. But in reality, delay is one of the most powerful forms of preparation. When love does not arrive on your timeline, it does not mean it will never arrive. It means something within you is still being shaped, refined, and strengthened. And what is being prepared is not just your future relationship, but you yourself. There are seasons in life where the heart is not yet ready to carry the weight of true companionship. Love is not just emotion, it is responsibility, patience, sacrifice, and emotional maturity. If love were to arrive before these qualities are developed, it would collapse under its own weight. So the delay becomes a classroom. It teaches you self-control, emotional balance, and the ability to sit with your own thoughts without needing someone else to fill the silence. Preparation also means healing. Many people carry unspoken wounds, disappointments, betrayals, insecurities that quietly influence how they love. If love were to arrive, while these wounds are still open, it would be shaped by fear rather than trust, by anxiety rather than peace. Delay allows the heart to heal properly, not through distraction, but through reflection. It forces you to confront what hurts, instead of masking it with attention or affection. During this period of waiting, the heart learns discernment. You begin to recognize patterns that once trapped you. You understand why certain connections never lasted and why some people were never meant to stay. What once felt like bad luck starts to look like clarity. You no longer romanticize potential, you value consistency. You no longer chase intensity, you seek stability. This shift does not happen overnight, and that is why time is necessary. Preparation also deepens your sense of self-worth. When love is delayed, you are faced with a choice: to believe that your value depends on being chosen, or to understand that your value exists regardless of who stays or leaves. Those who grow through delay learn to stand firm in their worth. They stop shrinking themselves to be loved. They stop tolerating disrespect just to avoid being alone. They learn that loneliness is temporary, but self-betrayal leaves lasting damage. Another powerful aspect of delay is alignment. Love is not just about two people liking each other. It is about timing, growth, and direction. Two good hearts can meet at the wrong time and still hurt each other. Delay ensures that when love finally arrives, it meets you at a moment when your values are clear, your boundaries are strong, and your purpose is not easily shaken. It aligns your heart with someone who complements your journey, not complicates it. Many people rush love because they fear being left behind. They see others settling down and assume they are late. But life is not a race, and love is not a competition. Those who wait often build stronger foundations because they are not driven by panic or comparison. They enter love with intention, not desperation. And intention changes everything. Delay also strengthens faith and trust. Waiting teaches you to release control. It humbles you. It reminds you that not everything is in your hands, and that some things unfold only when you are ready to receive them. This surrender builds patience, and patience transforms the heart. It softens it without weakening it, and strengthens it without hardening it. What feels like emptiness during delay is actually space. Space to grow, to mature, to become emotionally whole. When love finally enters that space, it is not filling a void, it is adding to a life that already stands strong. And that kind of love does not consume you, it complements you. So if love has been delayed, do not see it as punishment, see it as preparation. Something within you is being refined, something around you is being aligned. And when the time is right, you will realize that the waiting was not wasted, it was necessary. There are souls that are not shaped by ease, but by endurance. They are not refined in moments of comfort, but in seasons of waiting, questioning, and quiet struggle. These are the souls that grow deep, not loud. And depth is never formed quickly. It is carved slowly, layer by layer, through patience, self-awareness, and an inner journey that most people never take. Patience is the first refinement. Not the patience of simply waiting for something to happen, but the patience of remaining steady while nothing seems to change. It is learning to sit with unanswered prayers, with delayed dreams, with a heart that wants companionship yet refuses to accept anything that compromises its peace. This kind of patience reshapes a person. It teaches restraint over impulse, wisdom over urgency. While others rush to fill emotional gaps, the chosen soul learns to breathe through the emptiness without becoming bitter. Through patience, the soul learns that emotions do not have to dictate decisions. Feelings rise and fall, but values remain. This awareness does not come easily. It comes after disappointment, after moments where the heart wanted to leap forward, but the inner voice whispered, "Not yet." Each time that voice is honored, strength is built. And slowly, the soul becomes unshakable, not because it feels less, but because it understands more. Depth is the second refinement. Shallow experiences produce shallow connections. But souls that wait, reflect, and endure develop an emotional depth that cannot connect with just anyone. They listen more than they speak. They feel more than they show. They think deeply, not just about others, but about themselves. This depth can feel like a burden in a world that values speed and surface level attraction. Conversations feel empty, connections feel rushed, and many interactions simply do not reach the soul. But this depth is a gift. It allows the chosen soul to love with intention, to connect with meaning, and to see beyond appearances. It is why they are often misunderstood, labeled as too much, too intense, or too selective. In reality, they are simply too aware to pretend. They cannot fake interest. They cannot tolerate emotional confusion. And they cannot attach to someone who has not done their own inner work. Self-awareness is the third refinement, and perhaps the most powerful. Chosen souls are often forced inward because external fulfillment is delayed. In that inward journey, they meet themselves honestly. They confront their fears, their flaws, their patterns. They recognize where they give too much, where they expect too little, where they have mistaken attachment for love. This awareness is painful at first because it removes illusions. But it is also liberating because it restores choice. Through self-awareness, the soul learns boundaries. It understands that love does not require self-erasure, that compromise does not mean sacrifice of identity, that being understanding does not mean tolerating harm. This clarity is not common because many people avoid self-reflection, but the chosen soul cannot avoid it. Their circumstances push them toward it. As patience, depth, and self-awareness grow, something remarkable happens. The soul stops chasing, not because desire disappears, but because desperation does. Love is no longer something to prove worth, but something to share wholeness. Loneliness may still visit, but it no longer controls decisions. The heart becomes calm, grounded, and selective, not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. This refinement often isolates the chosen soul. They may feel out of place even among people. They may feel that few truly understand them. But this solitude is not emptiness, it is incubation. It is the quiet work that prepares the soul for a connection that will meet it at its depth, not pull it back to the surface. When love eventually arrives for such a soul, it is different. It does not feel chaotic or consuming. It feels steady, safe, aligned. Because the soul no longer seeks completion from another, it seeks companionship in purpose, peace, and growth. And that kind of love can only be received by a heart that has been refined, not rushed. So if your journey has forced you to wait, to reflect, and to grow inwardly, do not resent it. You are not being delayed, you are being developed. Not everyone is meant to love deeply, and not everyone can carry the responsibility that comes with it. But those who can are prepared, slowly, carefully, and intentionally. And when the time is right, the depth you once felt as loneliness will become the very reason your love endures. Not every connection is meant to reach the heart. And understanding this truth can save a person from immense pain. Many people believe that every attraction deserves a chance, that every conversation must lead somewhere, that every emotional spark is a sign to move forward. But the heart is not a place for experiments. It is sacred, sensitive, and deeply affected by who is allowed inside. Some connections are only meant to pass by, not to stay. Some people are meant to teach, not to remain. There are encounters in life that are simply mirrors. They reflect back what you still need to heal, what you still need to understand, or what you must finally let go of. These connections may feel intense at first. They may awaken emotions, memories, or desires you thought were buried. But intensity is not always compatibility, and familiarity is not always safety. Just because someone touches your emotions does not mean they deserve access to your heart. Many hearts suffer because they assume that interest equals intention. But not everyone who shows curiosity is capable of commitment. Not everyone who listens understands. Not everyone who stays for a moment is meant to stay for a lifetime. When such people are allowed too deeply into the heart, they leave confusion behind. They take clarity and replace it with questions. And slowly, the heart begins to associate love with uncertainty. Chosen souls often feel connection strongly, which is why discernment is so important for them. They do not experience people lightly. When they connect deeply. And because of this, not every interaction can be allowed to reach the heart. Some connections must remain at the level of awareness, not attachment. Some conversations are meant to stay conversations, not turn into expectations. This restraint is not coldness, it is wisdom born from understanding the cost of emotional access. Sometimes a connection ends not because anyone was wrong, but because it had fulfilled its purpose. The mistake people make is trying to extend something beyond its season. They hold on, hoping it will grow into something more, even when signs clearly show its limits. But forcing a connection to reach the heart when it was never meant to go that far only leads to disappointment. The heart senses when something is misaligned, even if the mind tries to justify it. Not every connection is safe enough to carry your vulnerability. Some people are comfortable receiving your softness but careless with it. They enjoy the closeness but avoid responsibility. They appreciate the attention but resist depth. When such connections reach the heart, they leave scars, not because of cruelty, but because of imbalance. One heart gives more than the other can hold. Learning that not every connection is meant for the heart also teaches detachment without bitterness. It allows you to walk away without anger, to release without resentment. You begin to understand that endings are not always failures. Sometimes they are acts of protection. Sometimes they are quiet signs that your heart deserves more than confusion, more than inconsistency, more than half presence. This understanding changes how you approach people. You become slower, more observant. You listen not just to words, but to patterns. You watch how someone handles honesty, responsibility, and emotional depth. You no longer rush intimacy. You allow trust to be built, not assumed. And in doing so, you protect the heart from being opened too soon to those who have not earned the right to enter. There is also peace in realizing that some connections are meant to remain lessons. They teach you what you value, what you cannot tolerate, and what you truly need. Without them, you would not recognize the right connection when it finally arrives. But lessons are not meant to be relived repeatedly. Once learned, they must be released. When the heart accepts that not every connection is meant to reach it, desperation fades. You stop clinging to potential and start honoring reality. You stop chasing emotional highs and start seeking emotional safety. And the heart once exhausted from constant attachment and disappointment, finally finds rest. In that state of clarity, the heart becomes selective, not closed, open but not exposed, hopeful but not careless. And when a connection finally reaches the heart, it does so gently, respectfully, and with purpose. Not to confuse, not to test, not to consume, but to stay. What feels like loneliness is often misunderstood as emptiness, as though something essential is missing. But loneliness is not always a void. Sometimes it is alignment. Sometimes it is the soul being placed exactly where it needs to be, away from noise, away from distraction, away from attachments that would have pulled it off its path. Alignment is quiet. It does not announce itself. And because it does not look like excitement or companionship, it is often mistaken for loss. There are seasons where being alone is not a sign of abandonment, but of direction. When the soul is meant to grow, to mature, or to realign with its purpose, distance is created naturally. Certain people drift away, conversations fade, invitations stop. At first, this feels painful, but slowly, clarity begins to emerge. You start to see how much of your energy was once spent trying to maintain connections that no longer matched who you were becoming. Loneliness strips away illusions. When there is no one to impress, no one to perform for, and no one to distract you, you are left with yourself. And in that space, the soul speaks honestly. You begin to recognize your true priorities, your values, and the kind of life you actually want, not the one shaped by comparison or pressure. Alignment begins when the noise quiets, and loneliness is often the silence required for that clarity. Many people fear loneliness because it forces self-confrontation. It reveals unmet needs, unresolved wounds, and unspoken truths, but avoidance only delays healing. Those who sit with loneliness, rather than escaping it, often emerge stronger and more self-aware. They learn that companionship is not a cure for inner unrest, and that peace must be cultivated within before it can be shared with another. Alignment also means being removed from what is incompatible. Not every environment supports growth. Not every relationship encourages authenticity. When the soul is aligned with a higher purpose, it becomes uncomfortable in spaces that once felt familiar. Loneliness follows not because you have lost people, but because you have outgrown them. And outgrowing is not betrayal, it is evolution. In this alignment, the soul learns contentment. It finds joy in simplicity. It learns to enjoy its own company, to find comfort in stillness, and to appreciate moments without needing validation. This does not eliminate the desire for love or connection, but it changes its quality. Love is no longer sought to escape loneliness, but to enhance an already grounded life. What shocks many people is that loneliness often precedes the right connection. Before meaningful companionship enters, the soul must be positioned correctly. It must be stable, clear, and aware of what it can give and receive. Loneliness creates that stability. It removes desperation, it removes dependency, and it ensures that when love arrives, it is chosen freely, not clung to out of fear. Alignment also deepens faith. When external support fades, reliance shifts inward and upward. You learn to trust the journey, even when it is unclear. You learn that not everything valuable arrives quickly or loudly. Some of the most important transformations happen quietly, in isolation, where no one else can interfere. Loneliness, when understood correctly, becomes sacred space. It is not punishment, it is preparation. It is the soul being recalibrated, fine-tuned, and positioned for what is next. It is a reminder that you are not behind, you are becoming. And when alignment is complete, loneliness no longer feels heavy. It feels purposeful. It feels temporary. Because the soul understands that it was never abandoned. It was simply being guided to where it truly belongs.